It's a very interesting study, and what I might do, I'll see how I'll do it. I want to, one second. I want to keep this as a resource, this study. So I'm doing my own little study on this Harinam Chintamani as well, and putting it into my usual slide thing. And I've also taken notes on my iPad, so I can share some of that as we go along the reading. You know, I can share, for example, how I've studied the first chapter, and I can share that today.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So you can see. But let's offer some of our basis of Prabhupada before we begin. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale, Shemati Bhakti Vedanta Swanti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharine, Nivasesha Sunyavari Pushtatara Satarine, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare. So, Mother Sari Mo, if you could make it that anyone can share their screen, because I've got my iPad also tuned in to this class, and it's there. I don't show any notes. So if you could just, I think there's a way you can make where anyone can share the screen, or you can make, or for me specifically, it's probably come up as iPad.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we started last week, and this, I was just going through this first chapter, and it kind of outlines the underlying philosophy, specifically in regards to the Shaktis of Krishna. And then it's going to introduce the holy name as a specific Shakti of the Lord. So here, Haridas Thakur is speaking with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is the mouthpiece of Lord Chaitanya. In other words, Lord Chaitanya is asking him about the holy name, and Haridas Thakur is then glorifying the holy name, the same as Lord Chaitanya did with Ramananda Roy about the tattva and the higher tattvas, and then rasa in the Ramana Samvat. So he's empowering Haridas Thakur to preach the glories of the holy name, and he's the right person. He is Prabhupada. Lord Chaitanya gave him the title of Harinam, was the Namacharya of the holy names. So, and like that, here you see this highlighted part, the multifarious energies. So, can I just ask, of all those taking part today, if you could, do all of you have the book Harinam Chintamani that we're reading from, or are you all relying on the screen here?
Prabhuji, I'm relying on the screen. Relying on the screen.
Relying on the screen, Prabhu.
I have the book, and I know there's one in the shop if somebody runs.
Okay, so another advertisement for the shop. Okay, so for now, what we'll do is, so let's read from the screen. I'm just thinking about future readings we might do, if I might use slides or not, but we'll use this.
Prabhu, is this Bhanu Maharaj's friend?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I have got Bhanu Maharaj's translation.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah.
What it is like this.
Yeah, I have the one that Chandravali is showing.
But it's not appearing. That one is not appearing on the desired tree.
Right from
Don't worry. So let's just stick to this one that I'm using here.
I've got a really old version.
But that's the one that we're reading then.
So let's stick to this one, and we'll all read this one here.
Yeah.
Oh, who's the author? Which one should I have? Bhaktivinoda Thakur's.
yeah, Bhakti.
That's it.
Okay, I have the right one then. Great, thank you.
It's translated by somebody.
Yeah, Bhanu Maharaj.
This might
No.
well be translated by Bhanu Swami.
Oh, it is. Mine is okay.
Okay, So if devotee Surfing Mother Lavanga has a hand up, Mother Kunamaya has a hand up for
Can put the mic
reading,
on.
and we're probably, I might stop and some way in this chapter here and share the notes I've made. So it might help. So perhaps we can begin with Mother Lavanga Latika. You can read. It says the multifarious energies.
The multifarious, let me just, sorry.
Are we on chapter 1?
Yeah,
Why have I not got multifarious?
started chapter 1, the glories of the holy name.
Yeah, the Supreme Lord and his devotee, right? And then it's brought the Lord inquires from Haridas,
Yeah, keep on going.
the truths of Lord Krishna. Oh, yes, got it. Lord Krishna and his energies are one. Okay, got it. Sorry.
The multifarious energies, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
The multifarious energies of Lord Krishna are never independent of him. The Vedas declare that the Lord and his energies are non-different. Lord Krishna is the infinite absolute Vibhu, and his energies are exhibitions of his opulences, Vaibhava. In spite of its endless excellences and multifarious potencies, he remains unaffected and indivisible. The Lord's energies are manifestations of his Vaibhava opulence. The Supreme Lord, therefore, can be perceived only through these energies or Vaibhava. O Lord Gauranga, you are the repository of 3 types of Vaibhava. They are, as revealed in the scriptures, the spiritual potency, Cit Vaibhava, the material potency, Maya or Acit Vaibhava, and the marginal potency, Jiva Vaibhava. Lord Krishna's Cit Vaibhava, spiritual opulences, are a transformation of his internal transcendent potencies. This unlimited display of spiritual potencies includes his abode, generally known as the Vaikuntha Loka, his innumerable names like Govinda, Hari, etc., his transcendental forms like the threefold bending form with 2 hands playing on a flute, his divine qualities so sublimely pleasurable to his devotees, his super excellent pastimes like the Rasa dance in Vrindavan, and its non-different appearance in Navadvip as the congregational chanting of the holy names. Thus his spiritual potencies are countless. The Lord's Chit potency is his superior energy. It is the natural result of the Lord's spiritual fullness, the Sandini potency by which everything exists and is held together as an interrelated whole, including the relationships of all jivas to the Lord, is an emission of the Chit potency. From that same Cit Vaibhava also comes the Samvit potency, which gives knowledge of one's identity and of everything else. Finally, from the Cit Vaibhava comes the Ladini potency, which gives birth to the ecstatic bliss of spiritual emotions. Spiritual potency, is that the next word?
Yep.
Spiritual potency is his Yoga Maya, and its transformations are all beyond the jurisdiction of mundane modes and influences. The Chit potency is never affected by the inferior Acit potency. Although it descends to this inferior mundane world, it is unaffected by material inebrities. Forever spiritual, embodying the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord, the Vedic hymns sing of its supreme position as equal to the Lord himself. There is no tinge of material influence in the Lord Krishna's energy. It is transcendental and exists in pure goodness, Suddha Sattva. Sattva is of 2 kinds, Suddha Sattva, pure goodness, and Mishra Sattva, mixed goodness. Everything in the category of Cit Vaibhava is Suddha Sattva, pure goodness. All Sattva in the material nature is mixed or Mishra Sattva. Suddha Sattva is devoid of passion and ignorance. Birth indicates the mode of passion in action. The eternally existent spiritual essence, Suddha Sattva, has never been touched by birth, which is a manifestation of passion, nor by annihilation, which is an act carried out in the mode of ignorance. Although the Supreme Lord separated parts and parcels, the Jivas, belong to the category of Suddha Sattva, due to their contact with nescience or material nature, they have come under the sway of the material modes of passion and ignorance, and hence are now in the mixed or Mishra Suddha category. Even demigods like Lord Shiva, though far superior in many ways to the ordinary jivas, are nevertheless captivated by the material glare due to false identification, and so fall in the category of Mishra Sattva. The Supreme Lord is always in pure goodness. He descends to this material world by his inconceivable spiritual potency and is always the controller of the material energy, Maya, who is ever ready to act as his maidservant. All the expansions and partial expansions of the Lord, such as Govinda, Vaikuntanath, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Siradakshaya Vishnu, are in the category of pure goodness, supreme and divine, and they
Perhaps you just
the end of this paragraph. Thus, they belong to the category of Vishnu, may sojourn in any place, either in the spiritual abodes of Goloka, Vaikuntha, the causal ocean, or in this material universe. Yet, they are always the master of Maya and the supreme controller of every other living entity, great or small. They remain unaffected by the influence of the illusory potency, is evidence of their inconceivable spiritual position.
perhaps you just pause there for now. So I've just, if there's any questions on this, let me just try sharing my screen here. 1 second. If this works. What can you see? The book still, yeah?
Yeah, the book.
Okay, okay. I should have tried to manage this before. 1 second. Yes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. You know. Share screen. Only the host can share in this meeting. So perhaps if
The host, Murli Prabhu.
I'm the host, can you make they probably can the iPad the host. Sorry for this complication. Or as I said, if you can make everyone able to share it, but that you might have to go back into the
Okay, you want me to make iPad host? Yeah.
yeah, then I can share the screen.
Okay.
You done?
No, not. Let me take your host.
You can see it there. Can you see iPad there?
I can see iPad, but as you are the host,
So
you do
stop-
it from your.
No, then
Yeah, you click on iPad. You must get make host or co-host.
yeah, make a co-host.
Because you are the host, I'm unable to.
Wait, just make me just like if you unhost me, like I'm no longer the host. You make iPad the host. So everyone stay with us.
Yep.
We're waiting for your explanation.
I don't know.
Well, so everybody gets a bit of background.
Yeah. It's okay. Oh, now I'm the co-host. Okay, let's try it. Share screen. Screen. Start broadcast.
I'm glad Sahajari is doing this. I couldn't do things like this.
Yeah, 1 second. Your screen sharing, okay. Okay, I'm getting that. Hey, think about it.
Yes, we can see it now, Prabhuji. Yes.
Yeah, so this is what has just been explained in essence as was said, Haridas Thakur is mapping out the Lord's vibhu, or his opulences, or his potencies. And then he's going to equate the potency of the holy name, describing how it acts upon the jiva. So he's given a basic, this is to be found in Sanatana Shiksha as well, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to Sanatana Goswami to some degree, the different potencies of the Lord. So Vaibhav means opulences, so Krishna is known as the Vaibhav Prakash, him from which all opulences come from. And we heard about 3 varieties of Vaibhav, or the opulences of Krishna. So one is the spiritual. It's also known as Cit Vaibhava. Chit, I think if I remember, means fully cognizant. So Cit Vaibhava. Then there's material world, which is Acit Vaibhava, which is full of ignorance. Then the jiva himself is the marginal energy, as we might have heard before. Now, the jiva oscillates between these two here. He is prone to be influenced by one, the spiritual, or the material. So that's what it means to be marginal. He is sometimes influenced by the superior chit, and often influenced by the achit. So he has a tendency to be overcome. That's the deal with the jiva shakti. Okay, so that's the deal with us. We have a tendency to become overcome by the material energy. So then Haridas Thakur broke down Cit Vaibhava and what it consists of, also known as Yoga Maya here. Okay, so the Cit Vaibhava, what makes up is the Lord's abode and his names, which he mentioned there in passing, but it's the main focus of this study. His forms, qualities, and pastimes, they're all the nature of Chit, completely spiritual. And then he spoke about from these 3, which I think we're familiar with, the Sandhini potency, which holds everything together. Everything exists, is held together by this potency of the Lord. And an interesting aspect to that, which I hadn't heard before, and that's what's very interesting when you do study, you find out different ways it's described. So here, for instance, the Sandhini potency includes that's the relationship of the jivas with the Lord. That fundamental relationship of the jiva with the Lord is under the Sandhini, the existence potency. Okay, so from that comes the samvit. So that's knowledge of identity and everything else. Knowledge of anything in this world is manifest in the form of, or it's coming from samvit. Then the hladini, perhaps we're more familiar with this word. So that manifest bliss, spiritual like rasa, then emotions, spiritual relationships, and exchange of rasa. So he gave a breakdown of these 3, Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini. Then he spoke about Suddha Sattva. That is the atmosphere of the Chit potency of the spiritual world. Suddha Sattva, everything is not just a mode of goodness, it's purified goodness. In other words, it's the atmosphere by which everything exists in the spiritual world. But here it's mixed up. Here we have Mishra Sattva, so goodness, which is generally mixed. It is not pure. It's mixed with the other modes. So the idea he's presenting that is to tell us that Krishna is always in a mode of Suddha Sattva. So included in that is Govinda, Vaikuntanath, Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay, and Kishoradakshay Vishnu, etc. Even when these Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Kishoradakshay Vishnu, etc., even when they interact within the material realm, they always remain in the situation of Sutta Sattva. They are never overcome, like us, the jiva. We tend to forget we are marginal potency. Yeah. So interestingly, even Brahma and Shiva, you mentioned Shiva here. They're not in Sutta Sattva. Now, the Shiva tattva was very difficult to understand because there is a verse where Lord Shiva says, "I'm always meditating upon the Lord in the mood in a Sutta Sattva." Anyway, better not ask me any questions on that because I can't understand. But here he's described as being not of the category of Vishnu Tattva, obviously, but he tend to be mixed. And then it spoke, excuse me for my picture. And then we come to the Viraj River was mentioned. Now, some of this we haven't read, so I'm just going to go through this, and then when we read it in the next few paragraphs, you're going to recognize this, okay? So we're going to hear about the spiritual abode. This is the spiritual abode here. This is the material world here. And in between is the Viraj River here. Yeah, so we are here. And it's going to mean we are here in Devi Dham, Durga Devi, which is rided over by Durga Devi. Yeah, and as you know, which consists of 7 higher and 7 lower planetary systems. So the jiva is originally spiritual and also independent. So he has the tendency, so because of that independence, he's marginal. So he's originally spiritual, but he misuses the independence and becomes absorbed in selfish plans, selfish desires, rather than plans and desires to please Krishna, like selfish pleasure. So that's called Maya. Anyone heard of Maya before?
No,
No?
never,
Okay.
never been in that.
Yeah, so Maya, so that causes birth in 8,400,000 species of life. And there's a nice verses that coming up which describes the Lord is always concerned for our well-being. Nice to think about, isn't it? Always concerned for our well-being. Just like a mother is always concerned that her children are okay. Always. So same the Lord, we are part and parcel of him, so he's always concerned for our well-being. And just keep note of this, because then he introduces how the holy name acts on that principle. Yeah. The Lord's always prepared to grant the heart's desire of everyone. He's the well-wishing friend, and he never deserts the jiva. Nice to contemplate, isn't it? The Lord has never left us, will never leave us. Even if we ignore him, turn our back to him, he is always our well-wisher. And yeah, then this word comes up in one verse. Avan sent. I had to look that up. So the pleasures of this world, they are fading. They come and go, unlike the Haladini Shakti. And then, so I've nearly come to the end, then we can continue reading. This is the whole chapter in a summary, okay? So then he brings up, Haridas Thakur brings up following Varnashram. Yeah? And he speaks about Varnashram, and he speaks about the duties in Varnashram. But then he says it's not pure devotional attitude. In other words, persons do their ritualistic activities in Varnashram for artha, kama, and moksha. Yeah. So then he speaks about something we've looked at in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, different types of piety, because Varnashram is based on pious acts, but there's different types of piety. There's piety from fruitive activities, piety from cultivation of knowledge, and piety from devotional service. So in the Bhagavad Gita, when it says Yesham Gatam Patam Bhapam Punya Kamana Punyan, I have to look at that verse again, Kama Punya Kamanam, that only someone who's acted piously in the previous life and in this life, and whose sinful activities are eradicated, can render devotional service to the Lord. Yeah, so that piety is this one here. Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti, from devotional service. And we've looked at that in Sutta Bhakti Chintamani. And then now he's mentioning, then he will mention the different forms of yagna, or sacrifice for the Lord. So in Satya Yuga, you might know what's coming here, is meditation. Treta Yuga is opulent sacrifices. Dwapara Yuga is deity worship. That's the means of purification. That's the means of salvation. And then he comes to Kali Yuga. This is what he's getting at here. Found this interesting picture. Chanting the holy name is the means for deliverance. And this down at the bottom of this picture is Kali Yuga. And here things are getting a little bit better. This is when someone takes to the chanting of the holy name. Okay. And that's a quick summary of this chapter. Okay. Hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we can continue. If there's any questions on that, we can continue reading, and keep in mind some of these notes which I've made. We haven't read that yet. So you read as it, yeah. All right. So
I was thinking how, when you came to the bottom, chanting, the most important. So then we can start from Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, Alex, who became a Chityanandan, and his story.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's where he begins then, chanting begins.
But yeah, and this is quite I was reading forward to the next chapter, and it's very interesting. It really gets into how the holy name, how he delivers the jiva and the different types of holy name that there is. But let's read about that, shall we? Now I need to stop sharing here so we can get back to the stop. Okay, so this is going to get complicated. So Mother Sahajari, sorry, but you have to make me a host again. Then we'll get back to the reading. If I could figure to have both of these going at the same time, that would be good, but I haven't figured it out. You still there, Mother Sahajari?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out because it's not
Sorry.
host.
Now you make me the co-host or the co-host, then I share my screen again. Okay, share screen. Yeah, thank you. Okay, bear with us. Don't go away. Stay with us, everyone.
It's the best place to be. Where will we go?
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue this reading. So we're reading from, we have perhaps Kunamai, you can read from here. This is where we left off. So remember, we've given notes on the rest of this chapter, so you might be able to identify it a bit more. Okay, Kunamai, you can continue.
Lord Brahma, the creator, Lord Shiva, the destroyer, and all other demigods belong to the category of jiva, and hence are Mishra Tattva, or in the mixed category, while all the incarnations of Vishnu category, their pastimes, the spiritual sky, etc., are in pure goodness. On this side of the Viraj River, which separates the material universe from the spiritual abode, everything in all the 14 planetary systems is Acit Vaibhava, or the temporary manifestation of matter. Everywhere elsewhere, this place has been described as Devi Dham, the abode of Durga Devi, who is presiding deity of Maya. The material universe is composed of 5 gross elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego. Both the material universe and the physical bodies of the living entities are made of the same 5 material substances, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Sorry.
Although
Mind, intelligence, and false ego compromise the jiva's subtle body, which is the result of the desire. These are also material, yet the jiva, who is by nature a product of the Suddha Sattva, as are his original mind, intelligence, and ego, is spiritual and distinct from the subtle body. The 7 higher planetary systems, such as Bur, Bhuvar, Swarga, Mahar, Jana, Satya, Brahma, and the 7 lower planetary systems, Atal, Sutal, etc., are all manifestations of Maya, the illusory potency of the Lord. Cit Vaibhava is the complete whole, and the Maya is its shadow. The jiva is originally completely spiritual and infinitesimal,
yeah.
and due to his spiritual nature, he is also independent. The jivas are countless in number, and spiritual bliss is their urgent need and perfection. In seeking after bliss, those who surrender their lives to Lord Krishna become liberated and reside eternally in the Lord's company as his confidential associates. On the other hand, the jiva soul who contemplates self-grandizement and selfish pleasure becomes attracted by Maya, who is always near at hand. He becomes eternally entrapped, enticed away from Lord Krishna's service, and receives a body manufactured by material nature or Maya, conducive to residence in Devi Dham. Thus, he is bound in the cycle of inevitable karmic reaction, wandering in gross and subtle bodies. Sometimes he's elevated to the heavenly planets, and next he has to descend to hell. In this way, he travels through all the 8,400,000 species of life, suffering the pains of material existence. O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality, and the jiva is your part and parcel. You're always concerned for the well-being of your servitors. Whatever situation the jiva may find himself in, Lord Krishna is always prepared to grant the jiva's heart's desire. Like a well-wishing friend who never deserts him, the relationship between Krishna and jiva is eternal. Krishna is the supreme Godhead, and the jiva is the instrument through whom and to whom the Lord manifests his energies and opulences. The Lord is the supreme controller, and the jiva is the beneficiary, enjoying the rewards of his actions. Whatever the servant considers desirable, the Lord mercifully bestows upon him. Anyone yearning for evanescent sense pleasure in the material world can also easily find it kindly provided by you. The means to attain such gratification is the performance of auspicious activities as recommended in the Vedas. They are following the duties of the Varnashram system, performing sacrifices such as the fire sacrifices, Agnistoma, executing the eightfold yoga process, offering havan or oblations, keeping vows on full moon days, and giving in charity on auspicious days and on occasions productive of material benefit. Although these activities are performed with the Lord Vishnu as the presiding deity, there is no pure devotional attitude on the part of the performer. He unfortunately does not realize his want of spirituality because these activities never help him develop a pure spiritual mood. The results one accrues from these activities are material. One simply craves for enjoyment in higher planets. Such activities and their results can never satisfy the soul, the real self. Illusion is their cause. These so-called auspicious activities only allow one to attain temporary heavenly pleasures, diametrically opposed to transcendental bliss.
Okay, perhaps if you pause there,
Thank you.
just ask if there's any questions or clarifications here. Describing about our existential situation. If not, we can read on. Let's see how much this chapter left. There's only a couple of pages left in this chapter. So this is an introductory. This is introductory, obviously it's chapter 1. So it's just mapping out the different shaktis and potencies of the Lord. But something, yeah, just scrolling back, excuse me. There's a few things. Yeah, the Lord is, interestingly, he's always ready to provide for the desires of the jiva. But according to their pious acts, yeah. But the Lord is the, what's it described? He is the provider of the jiva's situation based on their desire. I think, yeah, one. Janivasa, remember, he was describing this. He described it in the context of the Lord being a friend of the jiva. Perhaps they're difficult to really grasp completely because he's such a well-wishing friend that whatever the jiva wants, even if he wants matter, the Lord provides it. Even though as a friend, he might advise him, but if the jiva is insistent, then he provides the material realm. Just because, why? Because he's our friend. Yeah, so he's providing for that. Ultimately, he's arranged the material energy in such a way, not he's arranged, it's just constitutionally, the jiva cannot find happiness ultimately within the realm of matter. And that will impel the jiva on the course of inquiry and introspection. Then they will start to desire to be out of the material world at some point, especially if they meet a devotee. Otherwise, it may take a long time. Yeah, so therefore they take birth in 8,400,000 different species of a life. All right.
What I have got in Bhanuswami's translation,
Yeah, please, interesting.
he says he puts the jivas on a secondary path, which lets the jiva fulfill his material desire for some time, but simultaneously gives him faith in the process of bhakti.
All right, yes.
And if it were not for the mercy of the Lord, how could the living entities ever become pure and enter their position of happiness in the spiritual realm?
Yeah, interesting. So we're going to see some differences in translation and then explanation. But yeah, so for some time, and that's why, that's why the Lord, he creates the material world, but he comes and exhibits pastimes here. Also, we have the parampara. So we have the spiritual masters and we have the Vaishnavas. Yeah. So Bahanam Janman Ante. So after many births and deaths, someone actually is in Gyanam, someone's in knowledge, also begins to turn in another direction. Yeah. Yeah, perhaps I'll be interested to read that version of Bhanuswami as well. Yeah, sorry, someone was.
Yeah, I was saying the paragraph that you was explaining, how the jiva gets into Maya, attracted by Maya. But then also next to it, it says that, but the Lord is near at hand. So whenever, if any time the jiva turns his face, the Lord is there to help,
Yeah, so therefore that's what I was mentioning, that the Lord never forsakes us.
No. Yeah.
He's just waiting for us to turn towards him. Yeah. Yeah, he never forsakes the jiva. Otherwise, the jiva couldn't even function in the material world at all. You know, jiva couldn't even tie his shoelaces if it wasn't for the Lord within the heart. Couldn't remember his own name, his or her own name. Couldn't do anything without that intelligence coming from Krishna. So we are dependent upon him at all times.
And when he increases his piety, he will then meet devotee.
Yeah, and that comes up next, but it's a particular type of piety that I described.
Okay.
Yeah, particular type of piety. So let's read that then. Perhaps Chandravalima, with your hand is up to read, you can continue.
Oh,
we're
we
reading-
go.
I think we're reading from here. I've highlighted here.
If a person, okay, quickly. Yeah, because mine's into little paragraph. This paragraph means deliverance from material piety.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I have this book that you're quoting from. But
Mine also has these titles.
Yeah, titles. It makes it easier to explain how it's going.
yeah, perhaps you mean you've got this one.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
So what I do is, I think this is good because it does break it up into little paragraphs like this.
Yeah.
So what I do is I try and search for this online. So this one that I've got, this might take a couple of weeks to work all this out. But this is not, it doesn't say by Banu Swami here.
No, this one's not by Banaswami.
It says it's by Shava Bhavana Das Adhikari.
Yeah.
That's the one I have. Yeah.
But another guy has one by Banu Swami.
No, she has got what we've got.
Okay, yeah. And edited by Sahotra Swami and Daswana Das Prabhu.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Okay. So I try and find this online, and we
But
can.
you already bought this one, didn't you? So is it
Yeah, I've
gonna
got
be
this one.
for
Yeah,
you?
not much. It's online. £7, I think.
Okay.
All right, let's read what's on the screen there, because this is what everyone is looking at. So you can
Okay,
read
anyway,
it on.
I'll read the title of the paragraph, Deliverance from Material Piety.
Yeah, go on.
If a person is fortunate enough to have association with a saintly personality and come to know of his eternal identity as a servant of Lord Krishna, he easily surmounts the great obstacle of material nature. This is very rare. It happens only because of the results of huge amount of previous pious activities that are never to be attained by the performance of fruitive works, which can give only insignificant result. The seeker of dry empirical knowledge understands material nature to be a place of suffering and so strives for liberation. You are merciful them also. You have given them the Gyan Kanda section of Vedas so they can pursue impersonal knowledge of the Absolute. Their final destination is absorption into the Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti is your spiritual effulgence and is situated on the bank of Viraj River. All the demons killed by the Supreme Lord also end up merging with the Brahmajyoti, which lies beyond the periphery of Maya. Both the empirics and the fruity workers are non-devotees, disinclined to serve Lord Krishna. They can never relish the sweetness of Lord Krishna's service.
Then next is pious activities leading to devotional service.
That's right. Sukriti or pious activities is of three varieties. One, karma mukhi or piety derived from fruitive activities. Jnana mukhi or piety derived from the cultivation of knowledge, and bhakta unmukhi or piety derived from devotional service. The first two result in enjoying the fruits of actions and in liberation, respectively. However, bhakti unmukhi involves faith in an appreciation of pure devotional service. Such exalted piety is achieved by unknowing performance of pure devotional service without spiritual knowledge. A Gyata Sukriti. Bhakti and Mukhi is the most important kind of Sukriti, and it leads the jiva to meet a pure saintly devotee. By associating with a devotee of Krishna, the jiva's faith becomes firm. Gradually, he develops a taste for chanting the holy name, becomes compassionate towards all beings, and is fixed in devotional service.
Yeah, next title from here is a secondary process for the Kami and Gani.
O Lord, you are an ocean of magnanimity and the supreme control of everyone. You are always keen to serve the conditioned souls, including the Kamis, fruity workers, and Gyanis, empirical philosophers. Thinking of their welfare, you have proposed a secondary devotional path. The Kamis, who follow Varnashram Dharma, associates with saintly persons and executes his duty for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Hari. Such activities cleanse his heart and gradually destroys the desire for more fruity work. In his place, the seed of Shraddha, or pure faith, is sown within his heart. On the strength of his piety, the Jnani obtains the association of pure devotees of the Lord, and invokes their inherent compassion towards himself. This helps him easily develop firm faith in the process of pure devotional service. The association of a pure devotee is a secondary devotional path for the Jnani, who often says, "O Lord, my servant, the jiva, succumbs to the treachery of my illusory potency. I always know what is beneficial for him, and thus I inspire him to develop an aversion to sense enjoyment and liberation. And in its place, I grant him attraction to devotional service unto me. I lead the jiva in the pursuit of fulfilling his material desires, and very subtly deflect his yearning towards a secondary devotional path, and in this way strengthen his faith and love. O Lord, you are most merciful, and all this is reflection of your causeless mercy. Without your loving intervention, how could the jiva ever become purified?"
Perhaps we could just pause there. Any reflections on this? Any questions? It's quite descriptive, isn't it? The Lord, how he works in a subtle way. So he inspires the jiva to develop an aversion to sense enjoyment. So how would he do that, do you think? How would he, in what ways will he inspire the jiva to develop an aversion to sense gratification?
Giving a nasty aftertaste.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Basically, yeah, rubbing your face in it, you could say.
Give him something that you really want, and then realize that it's not what you wanted.
Yeah, or giving you a higher taste, like, giving you the association of devotees, ecstatic kirtan, Hari.
Yeah, but even before that, it's not possible actually. In other words, sense enjoyment, or the principle of trying to find happiness, the senses contacting with the objects, it's illusory and always evades the jiva. He can never find happiness from it. It just doesn't work. It's like putting fuel on a fire. The senses are always unsatisfied. So the path of sense enjoyment is one. Ultimately, the jiva has to meet with frustration at some point. That's just the nature of this world. So, and that's how it's set up. So, if someone's a little bit intelligent, they become a little bit adverse, to wanton sense gratification. But your answer is also right. I was thinking of it along in these lines. So, then one might start to get a bit philosophical. Yeah, one might go to the local library and get some books out, try and understand why this, it is not working. I cannot find peace of mind from enjoying my senses. And so the illusory energy seems to dictate that you will be completely satisfied when if you just get this sense object, everything will be all right. It won't be. If you get this partner, or you get this, or you get that, or get this wage, or get this situation, or this house, it'll always be accompanied with adibodhik, adhyatmic, and aditaivika. So in this way, you could say as well. So yeah, it makes them reverse. So I think this must happen when he associates with a devotee, makes them reverse to sense enjoyment. Now I just look in time. Let's just, perhaps Mother Gaia, you can just finish this chapter. Your hand up to read that. And then
I'll
we can,
attempt to. Can you hear me well?
yes, very good.
Religion has deteriorated in Kali Yuga, so that's the title. In
Yeah.
Cit Yuga, sages who took up the process of meditation were purified by the Lord and given the treasure of devotional service. In Treta Yuga, the same spiritual success crowned those who flawlessly performed opulent sacrifices to satisfy the Lord. And in Dwapara Yuga, you granted devotion to those who adhered perfectly to the path of deity worship. With the advent of Kali Yuga, O Lord, you saw the dreadful condition of the Jivas and relinquished all hope in the process of yoga, meditation, fruitive activities, sacrifices, etc. People in Kali Yuga are short-lived, always harassed by disease, and are born with a weak physique and psyche. They are handicapped from the outset. The cultivation of Varnashrama Dharma, Sankhya philosophy, yoga, and empiricism will not yield the strength needed to redeem the Jivas in Kali Yuga, and the secondary sub-devotional path of jnana and karma are extremely narrow and hazardous. The two secondary paths that lead to the shrine of devotional service are: 1, the association of saintly persons during spiritual discussions, and 2, work performed without desire for results, in which everything is offered to the Supreme Lord. In Kali Yuga, both have become contaminated. Genuine saintly persons, now rarely seen, have been displaced by a brand of crass, commercial pseudo-spiritualists. Religious activities are no longer performed for purifying the consciousness, but for mere enjoyment of the results. Therefore, these secondary paths are no longer beneficial. Even the process of deity worship that gave the highest spiritual success in Dwapara Yuga has become impure and degraded. The Jivas then tried other means to reach their final destination, but were confronted with many insurmountable obstacles. The path that directs one to the goal is the actual means, and what is gained by the execution of the means or process is the final destination. Receiving the Lord's mercy is the goal of human life, but karma or jnana are not the preeminent means to achieve that highest goal, because although they bring one close to the destination, in the end they suddenly reach a dead end and disappear. The prime process, chanting the holy name.
Hare Krishna. Okay, carry on.
The process of chanting the holy name is not like that. The Lord's holy name is always present. Therefore, it is the most efficient process. When the means becomes the end, the process becomes identical to the objective, and thus it is easy for the Jivas to attain liberation by your mercy. In my case, O Lord, it is different. I'm extremely fallen and am much engrossed in material life. Being the rascal I am, I never chanted your holy name. Saying this, Srila Haridasa, the incarnation of Lord Brahma, fell at the Lord's feet with tears cascading from his eyes and his body heaving with sighs. Only persons who appreciate Lord Hari, his devotees, and devotional service can take this Harinama Chintamani to heart.
Okay, thank you. So perhaps we'll stop there this week and we'll continue to next week with actually the glories of the holy name, chanting the holy name. So it's very nice how it's been laid out here, isn't it? After speaking about Gyan and karma and different means of pious acts and purification, considering the state of the jiva, they have no hope. They have no hope of following it. And that's quite this. When I read this paragraph, whether it's written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is expanding on Haridas Thakur's speaking, because this very much is in the language of Haridas Thakur, this paragraph here. You know, saintly persons, those persons who you should go to for doing yajna and pious acts, you know, for learning how to be pious in this world, the pandas, etc., those in the temples, they've been displaced by a brand of crass, commercial, pseudo-spiritualists. So, yeah, so these secondary paths of gradual elevation through pious acts, it doesn't work in this age of Kali. Yeah, because it described it's become degraded. And what's another word it used? It's what was that? It's hazardous. It's very hazardous. You know, I mean, there may be some well-meaning sattvic pandas at holy places, but I think they're hard to come by. Many of them are 100% motivated for money, and they'll tell you any damn thing. They'll do any damn thing just to get you to sit down and do a puja with them, you know. They make up all their rituals. Half of it may be bogus, some of it might not be, but generally you're going to find you're going to be cheated. The jiva is not going to really do the pious acts correctly, and anyway, you get the idea. So that's why it nicely concludes that the only hope is Krishna in the form of his holy name. And let me just, I don't want to cheat, there's a wonderful, actually, let's wait till we get there next week, because next, really the glories of the holy name will be really spoken of very nicely, how the holy name is the redeemer, ultimately, of the jiva.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we've experienced it personally. There are a couple of occasions when we went to the Holy Dham. There were pandas, and literally for money, if you do not give them hundreds of pounds, they will not open up the darshan. One of them experience was at Gokul, and that's why ISKCON don't recommend really for you to go to Gokul. So what is the destination of these people who are there in the Dham? Is that an aparad, or is that okay for them because they're trying to do it as a mean of living? So what will be their destination? Will they be delivered and go to Golok? But is it not an offense on their part for offending Vaishnavas or trying to?
I mean, I wish I could say, and I think it's very subjective to the particular individual, because some of them do take liberties, and it's almost like being robbed, actually, isn't it? You like experience. It's almost like being robbed.
Yeah, because they know it. Because the driver and the pandas, they are kind of, they know, they try and suss it out which country they're from, and then according to that, they ask you hundreds of pounds and make you sit somewhere, and they will close the curtains before you get there. Yeah,
so there we go. So where they go, I wouldn't like to say exactly, but it's not. I wouldn't. They've got to. I wouldn't say it's upwards. I wouldn't say it's an upwards to it, but there again, they're in the Holy Dham. That's another inconceivable point of the Holy Dham. If they die in the Holy Dham, I guess I don't know is the question, is the answer. I better ask Krishna that. And where does this panda go? Who is in Gokul? Who's doing that? What's his going to be destination? Let's leave that in the hands of Krishna. Okay. But I don't think that's why, you know, I don't. In one sense, it's Westerners, you know, who are following Prabhupada's line, are following a path of pure devotion and understand about selfless service. And we've got our own temples with our own pujaris. And when we go to such places, it so points out so starkly how materialistic they are. It's quite shocking at times, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite, it's something it can take you back a bit. But we have to be careful because they are in the holy Dham, so we don't want to get too much there for. But there are some genuine saints in the holy Dham, that's for sure. There are some genuine, if you can find them, you're very fortunate. Some genuine saintly persons who are really attached to their beatific temple and the deities, you know. I know often you hear Indradruma Swami Maharaj or Govinda Maharaj who have known some of these pandas going back 30 years, you know, and I will introduce them to devotees. And these are pure-hearted pandas, but as the age of Kali continues, it's hard to find. So my answer to your question, I don't really know their exact destination.
It's okay, no worries. It's just that it's sad because sometimes you could be brand new. You don't realize that you're supposed to take someone who's from there and they know the place and everything. And it can be really off-putting for someone who's trying to be spiritual, and you can't get that feeling because of you get put off by some pressure about giving money.
Yeah,
You know?
that's why you have to be, one sense, you have to have a certain level of shraddha. So those new persons who you take, you should think twice about taking them to such places because their shraddha might be, their faith might be not enough. But that's why if you take them to Mayapur, you know, the temple of ISKCON, you know, they're going to get a good impression. Or even some temples in South India, like, again, I mention it often, but when I went to South India, there was none of that in South India. In these big temples like Tirupati, you know, as far as I know, you don't find none of it because the temple takes care of all the pandas. It's different completely. It's a different experience completely.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. So we'll stop there this week and we'll continue next week. And next week, we're going to hear about get into more details of the holy name, how it's a touchstone, etc., how it's identical with Krishna. It's Krishna in the form of letters who's come to this material world. So we'll hear about that next week, okay? All right, thank you for joining us, everyone. We have 17 devotees with us today, so it's quite a popular one. We'll all gather together to hear Harinam Chintamani.
Yep.
Let's continue next week, okay? Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow we have a reading. Hare Krishna.
Tomorrow is good
Hare
reading.
Krishna, all the Vaishnavis.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Oh.
Prabhuji.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
And make all. Hare Krishna.